Welcome everybody back to Schnickcast number 2, a podcast where I talk to people who are super passionate about different games. Today we have Scarch97, good friend of mine, and we're going to talk a little bit about Destiny 2. And as a precursor, I'll say I haven't ever played Destiny 2 or Destiny 1. So we're going to make this video kind of an intro video or a video for beginners who might want to get into Destiny 2 in 2021. I believe it is free to play right now. Is that correct?
Yes, with the Xbox Game Pass.
Okay, so that is one way you can get into it. Um, so Scarch, first, you want to just say a few words about yourself?
So I'm Scarsh97. I'm a Twitch streamer. I wouldn't really consider myself a YouTuber, but I stream Destiny and NHL 21. I'm a monkey. But, I just chill on stream. That's about it. I rage and everything.
You do have a YouTube channel, which I'll put all of your links and everything in the description in case people want to check out your content. First things first, I would say is I'm gonna put you on the spot right away. Is if anyone's thinking about getting into Destiny 2, what's your 1 to 3 minute little elevator speech of how you would sell somebody on it?
Way that I would sell anyone on Destiny 2 is basically like if you love a game that you're gonna grind, that you don't have to do like every single like activity in the game, Destiny 2 would be the way to go. Not only is it like a grind, like not like a grind that you hate, but it's a fun grind. It's definitely worth it. Like you don't need like a whole group of friends to play with. You can literally play the game with 3 people. Not even. I play the game solo all the time. Obviously, it's better when you play with it with friends and whatnot. But Bungie makes it a way that you don't need others to actually play the game, which is why it hooks me. It's a really good game.
Okay, so now my first follow up question to that is going to be so the types of games I'm into, they can be grindy, but I'm not normally into like kind of loot grinder games and stuff like that. If I'm interested in a game that has a good story experience, does Destiny 2 have any story to offer? And if so, to what regards?
So there's gonna be the main story that the game has without DLC. So every few months there will be another DLC that the storyline actually continues. Bungie has it that the story is actually locked by a payment wall, but for the payment wall you get obviously new gear, weapons, storyline, like all that kind of stuff, new activities.
Let's say today I let's not even say I have Xbox Game Pass. Let's say I just
Someone gifted it to you.
right, like a physical copy or something,
Yeah.
right? So I put it in. What can I do? So I can't do any story if I have a physical disc
So
or
you can do the main story, right? The
okay.
main story is, I believe, uh, Red War. I believe something like that. Don't quote me. I'm probably 100% wrong, but you can play the main story, but then you'll find out that basically the way Destiny works is you have to be a certain level, and then after you get to like level 20, for instance, you're not level 20. You start with a power level, as they call it. So like for all the OG players, they call it the light level. So the way the light level and power level works is that you you need better gear, right? So your weapons and your armors will have power level, but then halfway through the story you'll notice that like you're kind of capped out at a certain power level, and that's where Bungie gets you. And then once you like finish the main campaign will usually last about like 10 hours, which is a decent
Okay.
amount, right? Because not only do you have like the main campaign, you'll have like strike missions, crucible, gambit, like all these other activities in the game that you can play, right? So you'll find that you're actually locked out of like power level and some activities like raids, strikes, like all that kind of stuff.
All right, and before we get too into those like advanced things, because even you already kind of lost me, because you got to remember I didn't like I have zero experience. So let's say if I want to talk about the story of the game or the story missions, right? I'm thinking so. Destiny is also made by Bungie, and let's take for example the earlier Halo games, right?
Yes.
In Halo, the campaign or the story is, you play the game the same, but obviously there's NPCs and this and that. So, is there a distinct difference between the story and like the multiplayer modes for Destiny, or are they similar? Like, that's what I want to know. Like,
So the multiplayer in the story is like completely different. You'll have the story which lasts you, let's say, 10 to 12 hours, right? So the story will basically tell you the story, like any storyline, but then it'll also build you up to like the strike missions. So like right now, any player who plays the game like today, they'll log on, they'll do their strike missions, do their crucible, play their gambit, patrol on any planets. But those story missions that you start off with before you start doing any other activity in the game, it basically lasts that first 10 to 12 hours of you actually playing it to get better gear. The only way that you replaying that story mission is if you make another character.
okay, so it's sounding to me like the story in Destiny 2 is more just a way to kind of get your character up to speed. It's not a classical campaign in like a first person shooter
No,
that you're going to go through the same exact thing. You can play multiple times, multiple difficulties,
no,
right?
yeah.
So it's not like that. Okay.
So like right now, the new DLC came out, right? Bungie's already teasing like the next DLC, the next 2 3 DLCs, like what's supposed to be coming. They basically leave you on like a cliff, waiting to see what's gonna happen in the story.
And I will say too, out of the 10 hours, like, how does Bungie in Destiny actually storytell? Are there cutscenes? Is it just small interactions where characters might say things to you? Like, how does the story unfold? I'm really curious.
So they have vendors in the game, right? So when you first join off on, oh, okay, so like when Beyond Light first released, right? They'll they'll bring you into a cutscene right away, and then they'll throw you right into a story mission, right? After you do that first story mission, it'll tell you to go speak to someone, which will probably be Zavala, which is like the main vanguard or the main NPC in Destiny, and he'll tell you to go talk to this person or go do this, right? But halfway through like the campaigns, while you're building up to the end, there will be cutscenes. You'll have the talking scenes with any NPC, but you'll mostly want to look for like the cutscenes because Bungie really does their cutscenes like really really well. You'll get at least like 4 or 5 of them, like max, in the story mode, and that's what it builds you up to want to like finish the story mode as fast as you can, and then it leaves you on that edge for when the next DLC comes out.
Okay, so sounds like most of the storytelling is through the NPCs as you go through the story, but there are a few cutscenes here and there, and the most of the cutscenes is at the very end. Is that what you're saying,
I wouldn't say it's
basically?
like the really end. It's like more in between.
Okay.
It's like every couple of missions.
Okay. Okay. So, from my understanding, it seems like the story is a little bit on the light side, but it is there if that's what you're interested in doing. And, to some extent, you can, if you're only paying a few dollars for the game, you can still play through the story and have fun, right?
Oh, 100%. Me and my cousins,
Okay.
we all bought the DLC. Well, I bought it first. I was streaming it for a bit at the time, and then my cousins got it about 2 weeks later. Uh, Obviously, if you have like a team, you're gonna fly by the missions like a lot faster because you have the 3 people and you don't have to be that recommended power level. So I was struggling when I was doing it solo, right? But when I was doing it with my cousins helping them out, we literally flew by like the missions in just a few hours.
So, is there not difficulty on the campaign part?
So there is difficulty on the campaign part. I was struggling because I was such a low power level. Because the new DLC, what they did was they recommended like power level that you were nowhere close to. So they
Okay.
basically the way that they wanted you to do is they wanted you to like play a mission. Then the next mission pops up. They say recommended power level, which is like 20 power level over than yours. So not only did you have to like struggle on the first mission, you have to go do like other missions or other activities in the game, get higher power level, and then work your way through the story. Because after every mission, the power level would increase, right? So like Bungie has it that there's like a soft cap, which is the soft cap is when you're doing this the story mission when it first comes out, you'll you'll get gear that will allow you to upgrade your guardian, right? But then after you finish the campaign, you're technically at like the hard cap, which you have to get like pinnacle gear, and you basically have to like grind every week to get that pinnacle gear because you have to do every activity in the game. So it's that's where like the grind actually begins.
What's the first thing they're gonna do? They're just gonna play through the story mode to level up a little bit, or what's the process of starting the game on day one? What do you think players should do? What would you recommend?
So the first time any new Destiny 2 player will log into the game, there's actually going to be a new tutorial that just came out with Beyond Light. They added a new NPC on the EDZ. So like all the OG like Bungie fans or Destiny 2 fans, um, we all finally got the EDZ back, which was a place on Earth that was from Destiny 1. So from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, they never really added that tutorial again. They just kind of figured, okay, everyone played Destiny 1 and they had the tutorial. So, they know how to play, right? So now in Destiny 2, new players finally get a tutorial. So when they head they'll be directed onto the EDZ and they'll meet this guy Han something or Sean Han, right? Sean Han, whatever his name is. And he'll basically tell you how to do, you know, tell you what missions what to do. He'll show you around like the HUD. He'll tell you about like your gear and anything in your inventory. So he basically breaks down the game for you in like an easier way. Because me explaining it right now is going to be hella confusing for any new player. I've had
Right.
multiple friends like say like, oh, I've seen you play Destiny. I want to play with you, especially since like it's been free for the last few months for Game Pass. They've downloaded it, they've played it, but without that physical tutorial, it's so hard for them to understand. And I've
Right.
told them like you gotta wait until Beyond Light because it'll actually explain it to you. Because there's so many storylines that build up to Beyond Light. So like even though I may be directing them, I can possibly screw them up because I can't physically see what's in their quests, in like their quest hub. So like everything's just really confusing, and it overwhelms the new players. So the fact that they brought the EDZ back in an actual tutorial, the new players will get that experience that all Destiny 1 players had, let's say 6 years ago. Probably more than that, right?
Yeah, because that was actually going to be my follow up question to this was if I've never played Destiny 1, do you recommend I play Destiny 2? And it seems like before that tutorial, it might have been really difficult to jump into Destiny 2 without playing the first one. But now that they've introduced that tutorial part of Earth, that would make it much easier for myself to start playing, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, okay, so to go back on the last question too. So, if a new player plays, they're going to want to do this tutorial first and then after that do the story mode or no?
So, me assuming how everything will work with new players like joining now since Beyond Light released is that they're gonna get the new players to do the tutorial, work their way up to Beyond Light with, I think there's 4 stories now, so you'll have 3 stories to do, from the beginning of Destiny 2. Then, so it'll be the original Destiny 2 story. Then there's gonna be 2 DLCs afterwards, and then the current DLC. So what they'll probably do is that they'll probably tell you, okay, start off with this story, and then work your way into Beyond Light. And then one of the things that like a lot of new players don't understand is that the new hubs or HUDs, any quest or bounty that you get mostly the quests, you gotta read through them. Me and my cousins have gone through so many like errors that two out of three of us will read something, and the one other won't. That he basically like I think it was like two stories ago. We were literally running through all the missions, right? And one of my cousins didn't grab the right quest. So we're like 5 hours into like this storyline to realize that my cousin was not in the right storyline with us because he didn't read.
So does that mean he just won't get any of the rewards for the quests and things like that?
So what basically what happened was that me and my cousin had to me and my cousin we had to redo the storyline of like the 5 hours of work that we literally did. So like the 5 hours that we literally grinded and enjoyed, we literally rushed through within like an hour because we didn't realize that he was on like a different quest line than us. So it's quite aggravating. That's why like to any new player, old player, I'll literally tell them like just read your quests. If you don't read your quests, you're literally gonna be lost. Half the time, if I don't understand what like the text says in like a quest, I'll look it up. Like
Right.
sometimes the game has like they'll give you like riddles or just say like hey do this and you're like hey like I read what you told me to do but I don't understand what you want me to do. Plus, like for any new player who even after the tutorial, for instance, if you play the game, play the full tutorial, and you still don't understand it, there is so many Destiny guides on YouTube that help you with quests, how to get exotics, basically how to do anything in the game. So like, if the tutorial doesn't fulfill your needs, like don't be scared to YouTube something or Google something because YouTube will have anything for you. Reddit will have anything to you. If you're on Discord, there's literally a Destiny 2 server by Bungie. You know how many times I go into that server to this day and be like this happened. How do I prevent this from happening? Or um, how do I get this to drop? Or how do I do this? And like people respond to you like instantly, right? So like don't ever be scared to even like just message someone that you see in like the tower and be like, "Hey, how did you get this?" or "How did you do that?" Right? Because the community
Yeah.
will help you.
That's really good to hear actually because like a game like Destiny 2 and some people compare it to MMOs and things like that. There's so much stuff there that it's very easy to get lost and you got to understand a lot of players of any game as soon as they get really stuck on something, most people don't take the time to try to figure it out. They just move on. So, if you're talking about a game like this and you really want to maintain that player base, it's really good that there's a lot of support on YouTube and Discord and stuff like that.
So
Um,
I would say like go to
yeah,
YouTube and Discord. I think like maybe 90, let's say 80% of the time, if you message someone that's in the tower or you're playing a strike with whatever, um, probably like 80% of the time they won't message you because some people are just rude like that. I've had people like send me hate messages on Destiny, and I've never gotten a hate message on Destiny before, right? So like you just gotta I would say like go to the Discord or YouTube, like go to YouTube first, watch a video, and then hit
right.
up the Discord because the Discord's the best thing. They literally have like everything. They have like weekly vendors, like new missions, like everything. They'll tell you anything in that Discord. It's literally like a Wikipedia for Destiny players.
You mentioned the tower. A new player would have no idea what the tower is, as do I. What's the tower?
So the tower, any new Destiny player won't get to the tower until they're done with the guy Sean or Shahan in the EDZ. But basically, the tower's like your safe zone. Basically, you have like all your vendors. You pick up your bounties there. You'll have like your stores. You have your stores, your vendors. You decrypt engrams. So like for new players that don't know what engrams are, when you when you play the game, you'll find that like an orb will drop from an enemy. So you'll either get green, blue, purple, or yellow. Obviously, green is going to be like your most common, and purple and yellow are going to be your most uncommon. Mostly the yellow will be, but when you pick up the purple or the like the yellow or gold, you'll have to bring those back to the tower, bring it to the cryptarch, and he'll decode it for you. So basically, your tower is just your safe place where everyone will be, where you can see.
It's like a hub, right?
Yeah, like I was gonna
Like a
compare.
world
I
hub.
was gonna compare it to like a different game, but like to be honest, I don't even play any other games to compare it to anything. So yeah, it's basically your hub. You literally just have everything there, like your inventory, your vendors. Like when you load up the
Can you
game
see
today.
other players there too?
Yeah, so when you load up the game
Okay.
today, after playing, let's say you finish the story mode, you're done on the EDZ, and you just want to play and chill out with your friends, right? Start up Destiny 2, you literally go straight to the tower. I never start playing Destiny until I go to the tower because I already know for a fact there's like a bunch of bounties. Um, I want to switch up my inventory, but mostly it's gonna be the bounties. You'll have like the gunsmith bounties that you literally just have to shoot things with any kind of weapon. Then you'll go to Zavala. Well, he'll have bounties for strike missions. You go to the Crucible dude, Lord Shax, and he'll have Crucible bounties. So Crucible is basically your online. It'll be like your multiplayer, and then you got your Gambit bounties, which is like PvP stuff slash PvE. It's like a mix of it, right? But I never start off playing Destiny without going to the tower.
It sounds like it's basically a hub world that you can see, you can purchase all your things, get your different missions and quests, and interact with other players if you want. So to kind of go off what you just said as well, you're mentioning different game modes. So how about you give like a very basic overview of the different game modes and what players can expect on a like for a new player?
Okay, so strike missions will probably be your most played activity. Basically, a strike mission is it's like a short version of like a story mission. You basically load in, you'll follow the objective. You got to kill the boss at the end, and then you just keep replaying it. It's very simple, right?
Are there like different levels or rewards you can get? Like what keeps the player playing them over and over again?
So the only thing that'll keep the player playing it over and over again is for the bounties, right?
Okay.
You you'll do bounties quicker in strikes, I find, than going onto planets to find a certain enemy because the strike mission will have a certain type of enemy for that area that it's in. But it's also just fun to literally you don't with a strike you don't feel rushed. You can literally just play it. You can play with randoms because it's matchmaking. You defeat the boss, you feel good, and then you just move on to the next one. Right? It's basically like you go on to do strikes to chill. Then you got Crucible,
Okay.
which is your online. Right now, the online's completely broken because of um, the new ability stasis. Basically,
By online you mean PvP.
yes. So PvP
Okay.
is basically like your Call of Duty, but in Destiny, right?
Right.
So you
Okay,
have
that's why I'm clarifying. Yeah.
you have the 6v6 or you have the 3v3. 6v6 is your most common. I would say the most common like game mode in 6v6 will be capture or sorry control, which is basically domination. You have the three flags. You want to control the flags, but right now Crucible's a little broken with the stasis, right? Because stasis it's like it's a frozen it's a nice ability, right? So basically you're playing Crucible and like every 5 seconds you're literally like just getting frozen. So like Bungie's trying to fix they're trying to fix stasis online, but I honestly don't think they will. It's basically the game mode where you feel competitive. That's where you go play, or if you want to rage, that's where you go play.
Right. And then so besides Strike Team and Crucible, is there anything else
There
that
is
players can do?
so there's a Gambit. So Gambit is like a mix of like defeating enemies that would usually be in strikes, and basically there's two teams, teams of four. You basically have to capture moats. So you get moats by defeating enemies, and then you have like this control center in the middle, and you gotta put your moats into the center, and it'll basically like charge up a bar that will release like a boss, right? and basically you and the other team are in a race to defeat your boss first. So
Okay.
like throughout trying to get this prime evil out, there'll be a portal, right? And you can teleport to the other end, like to your enemy's side, and you can screw the other enemy up by like killing their team. Like it's really fun when you play with a full team or even with randoms. To be honest, when you go into the portal and you team wipe the other team and you see their bar just decrease, it's so satisfying. It's another game mode where like, yeah, you can chill because it's kind of PVE, but then there's a competitive side out of it that you'll get with the PvP. And then for other players who like are really competitive, every week Friday through Monday, there's an online game mode called Trials of Cyrus, which is basically Crucible, but that's where like all the tryhards and sweats go for the really competitive edge, right? So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you want to be like the top player on PvE or sorry PvP, Trials of Cyrus would be the place for you. If you're a PvE player and you're really competitive, or you just want to get like gear that's locked out by like one certain game mode, if you have a team of six or you're willing to look for a group, there's raid missions. So the raid mission is like basically your final step to like the story mode or like the boss of the story. And there'll be like mini bosses building up to like a main boss. And these raids can last you like anywhere from like 2 to 5 hours, like just on the first
Wow.
run. Like every year, or not every year, but every new DLC that Bungie has, so let's say every year, that there's a new storyline that the day that they actually release it, the first 24 hours, whoever finishes like the raid first gets like a world champions belt or like the world's first belt. So it's actually pretty cool. So like if you guys are ever just watching Twitch and you're interested in watching Destiny, I would suggest going watching Glad. He is like an unbelievable PvE player. You'll actually see in his background that he's won two of the Destiny World First raids. So they basically look like WWE belts, but Bungie like.
Oh, they're physical belts, so they'll mail you a
So
belt.
they actually raid you. They raid you. They actually send you a belt, right? So not only will you get like the physical belt, like each player of the team, but there's because when you run into like the raids, you're gonna have six players. So like when Beyond Light came out December, what is it, 10th? They literally said like a month before, like get your raid team ready, prepare yourself for like the first 2 weeks of Beyond Light being out because basically you had to get your light level to 1230 because 1230 was like the cap for the raid. So even if like let's say if you're like 1240, right? That extra 10 light level that you had wasn't going to count towards the raid because they had to make it like fair for anyone else. So Glad has won the world's first twice, right? So this year he placed I think like 18th or something. So they actually Bungie will actually like have a leaderboard of the teams that place. So this raid was actually pretty hard with the mechanics. Usually Glad's like top 10, but even like for top 18, I think he finished in like 8 hours, I believe. He did pretty good, right? So like having that raid experience is also like really fun. It's just better when you experience it with a group of friends. I never really like found like a looking for group like raid team like enjoyable because usually they're just a bunch of tryhards and like just yelling at you because you don't know what the hell you're doing. So
Hmm.
I personally like enjoy it when like I get a group of friends and we go in the first time, and even though like we may screw up like a few times, it's all like just jokes at the end of the day. Like it's something to like rage about or anything.
Can you explain like how a raid really functions? Like, do you start in and just start defeating waves of enemies? Are there like environmental components or puzzles? Like, how does it
So
work?
the raid will be so there's a mini map on Destiny, right? and usually on the left side of the screen, they'll tell you like an objective to go to, right? So like the objective will be like, hey, go do such and such. An arrow will point towards an area, and like 90% of the time, you're gonna have to do a puzzle. And the puzzle that like they tell you to do, if you're a first timer, if you never watched the like any raid playthrough, you're not gonna know what the hell's going on. It's totally a guessing game at that point, and that's like where the enjoyment comes, because even though like there's other teams that can do like their first run of the new raid in like let's say 8 hours, to be able to just have fun and try to knock out this this puzzle like first time with like your friends, nothing beats that feeling, right? So like you'll have, let's say, like four puzzles, which is kind of a lot. I'm just guessing at this point because I haven't done a raid in like 5 years. So let's say there's four puzzles that you got to do throughout the whole raid. Then there's going to be like five mini bosses or four mini bosses leading up to like the main boss. That and the main boss will actually have like somewhat of a puzzle in it too. It's not going to be like you just jump into the final boss. You just got
Okay.
DPS the boss, right? They'll be like the way Bungie has like their enemies is that you gotta phase them, right? So even though you might do like a certain amount of let's say you take like 1/4 of their health off their bar, right? After you do that, there'll be another stage where like you gotta kill all the ads, and then you'll see like the main boss will be unimmune, and then that's when you can kill the enemy again or the boss again.
Right. So there'll be some kind of mechanic, so it's not just DPSing until it's dead.
Yeah, like the first like in Destiny 1, me and my buddies, we used to like do like the vault of glass in like an hour. After like running that raid like multiple times, that took us like hours on end. Like even to this day, like if we were to jump back into Destiny 1, jump into the vault of glass, we would like easily do that raid in like an hour. And like at this point, I think me and my two cousins, we could probably like three men the raid, and you usually need like six people for that stuff. Because like we
Hmm.
literally like learned the vault of glass like it was the back of our hand.
When you say bounties, what kind of things might somebody get as a bounty?
So the bounties are it's not really what you think. Well, like you gotta go like it. Every vendor in the tower will have, I think it's about like six bounties that they'll sell to you, right? Or not sell to you. You just have to pick them up. You don't have to spend any of your glimmer, which is the currency in the game, right? So you can go to the gunsmith and he'll tell you like, okay, get like X amount of kills with a sword, get X amount of kills with like precision weapon or precision shots. He'll the gunsmith will basically tell you to give you bounties that are gun based, right? Some of them will be
Okay.
like get 100 kills. Some of them will be like a percentage of like kills. He just kind of mixes it up. And then you got crucible bounties, which will be, you know, activate your super like 3 times, get shotgun kills, capture zones and capture the flag in like control or zones in control. Then you got like Zavala, which will kind of be like you kill X amount of enemies using or sorry, I don't really pay attention to Zavala. Like Zavala will basically be all his bounties will be more strike based. The gunsmith is more of just you can do whatever you want, like with any of the weapons. And then you got the gambit bounties from the drifter, which would be more based towards gambit. So it's stuff like that.
So you're mentioning the bounties. How often do the bounties reset like daily, weekly?
So the bounties refresh daily, but when you're looking at like the map, like the map, you'll realize that each vendor will say like 0 out of 8. So if you finish 8 of those bounties in a week, then you'll get like a high gear drop, which will be like a purple. It's like the main armor color in the game is purple, and then above that is uh gold or yellow. So for the exotics, which are the gold or yellow, You'll be able to wear one armor piece of an exotic item, and you can have one exotic weapon on you at all times, right? Just so it's not like overpowering where you have like all gold weapons and stuff. For you to like overpower your character, you can masterwork your item, which basically means like your gun or your armor piece is at like level 10 and it's completely maxed out. So when you'll see that someone has like a masterwork item, when their purple item has like a blue or blue, a yellow outline onto it, right? But
Hmm.
like any new question that a new player always has is, um, how do I get my power light higher? And the only way of getting your power light higher is one, grinding the game in any game mode. I would say the best game mode to actually get your higher power level is Crucible. It is like a pain in the ass to play sometimes because it's just enraging. But even if you win or lose, you'll get a gear drop that's it's gonna be a blue item, but you have to infuse it into a purple, and your purple gear will actually become a higher power level. And then another way to get your power level up weekly is you got to do the weekly activities, which will be strike missions, the Nightfall, Gambit, and Crucible. So the Nightfall is basically your ideal strike mission, but every week Bungie will like randomly pick one that you have to go in with either by matchmaking or with the team, right? And there's gonna be difficulties or different difficulties, right? So depending on your power level, you can pick one higher, so it's more challenging for you, right? So if you do the Nightfall and you get the certain percentage that you need, you'll get a Pinnacle Drop. If you do three strike missions that in that week, you'll get a Pinnacle Drop. If you play three games, three matches of Crucible, you get another Pinnacle Drop. Basically, the Pinnacle Drop is just a gear set item, whether it can be anything, it can be armor or a weapon that that you can use that's a higher power level than your current one, right? So it's a bit of a grind, but that's where like that fun grind like starts to happen.
One thing I want to talk about that you mentioned earlier, you said something about someone's level being 1130. Does that mean 1130? Or is that, did I misunderstand?
So it's I used to be 11:30. Now it's 12:30. So
So your level is 4 digits.
yes.
Can you explain the leveling up? And because, okay, let's say a 4 digit level is very intimidating for a new player to look at and say, this person has been playing so much that they have thousands of levels.
So it's not really a level, it's just kind of your gear level. Like everyone is technically level 30. So when you do end up like, let's say if you buy the game, you got gifted the game for Christmas, or you have the Game Pass and you just want to try out the game. Right away when you log on, for any returning player from like let's say um sorry, not any returning player, any new player, while you're doing the story mode, like the first original story mode's like your light level is going to be like 300, right? So while you work your way up in the story mode, you're going to go from like 300 to like 750 and then 1100 and then 1200, which is the current. Like when I started playing Destiny again in August, my light level was 750. So they just increased the light level like basically 1,000 more than what it is, or just sorry, 200 more than what it was, or 300, right? So don't make like that power level very intimidating, because as long as you play the game, you'll get any new gear that would drop for your power level to increase it. And you'll find out that once you start playing the game that it's actually really easy to get that power level up.
Okay, that's definitely good for new players. I guess one more time, simply explain the difference between power level and light level. Try to make it as basic as
So
possible.
it's the same thing. I say light level because I'm a Destiny 1 player. and they literally just changed the name from light level to power level. Right now, it's called power level, right? I guess it was just confusing to some people, so they called it a power level. So if you ever hear anyone say like a light level, that's like an OG Destiny 1 player.
Okay, so power level means the level of your character.
And power level means the level of the gear that you're wearing.
Okay, so that explains
Yeah.
that. All right. See, these are like really small details to you, but are like really important for people that are just getting into it.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, so, is there any last kind of statements you would want to recommend, or statements or recommendations for new players that you may have? Especially, like, again, let's pretend that people are either picking this up for Christmas this year or they got gifted Game Pass and want to check out Destiny 2. What do you think? Like, what kind of last words do you want to give them?
So the one thing that I would always suggest is when you're playing any new story mode and you have to get your light level up, but you have like that purple armor that you really want to wear, don't infuse your blues that are a higher level into your purples like right away. Do it if they're at least like 5 power level like over your current armor, because I tend to do it myself. I'll tend to want that higher power level like right away, and I waste my upgrade module on like 1 power level, and then when you actually need like that upgrade module, because you use your last one, you don't have it because you literally wasted it on like 1 power level upgrade instead of like 5 or 6. So don't make that mistake that I constantly make, and I constantly tell myself like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this, but I continuously do it. Like when you're first leveling up, like just take your time. Don't worry. Don't worry about like, oh my god, like everyone has like purple gear and I have 1 purple item and like 7 blues on me. Like don't worry about that. That does not matter. As long as you get to like the current power level, which would be 1200, and then once you're like 1200 as of right now, you're good to start like slowly upgrading, right? Just take your time with the upgrading. Don't worry about like your gear color. Like you'll be good. The new DLC dropped and I look like a complete noob because I didn't want to waste my shaders on individual armors, and I didn't want to waste my upgrade modules. So just take your time. Like the game's not going anywhere. You still have months before the next DLC comes out.
What kind of content do you do on your Twitch channel, or what kind of videos do you make about Destiny 2 in case people are interested in maybe checking that out?
So the Destiny 2 videos that I used to make would be like just like weeklies or videos, and any new changes or events that were coming out into Destiny 2. I've kind of put that on a hold right now. I've been focusing on more NHL 21.
And what about Twitch? When you play Destiny 2 on Twitch, what do you like to do?
So Destiny 2 on Twitch, like when I stream it, I will basically do like any weekly thing that I have to do. So that'll be like either Nightfall, Strikes, Crucible, Gambit. Most of the time it'll be Crucible because a lot of people are more attracted to watching Crucible because it's more competitive than compared to people just playing PvE stuff.
Thank you, Scarch, for coming on and having this conversation with me. I know I learned a lot about Destiny 2, and I might honestly pick it up and check it out. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best game for me, but I would definitely like to at least give it a try and see what it's all about. And I think that you've done a great job explaining a lot of the basic mechanics so that way people can not be as intimidated like I was when they're jumping in the game and they don't know anything about it. It's very complicated, more similar to an MMO style game, I would say.
It's a very complicated game, but I'm glad to help out and you know explain the game briefly on it, like basically to any new player. Because I remember being back in Destiny 1, like being as a new player, I felt like so lost, and I always felt bad for like new players coming into Destiny 2, and there was no story, no tutorial, right? So it's nice to be able to help out the newer players.
Yeah, and like I said before, I'll put all of Scarch's like social media and links in there. Feel free to contact him if you want, if you're a new player and you need some help or whatever, or he can at least point you in the right direction to maybe find what you're looking for.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, thanks Scarch for coming. This was a lot of fun. Um, if you ever want to be on the podcast again, let me know. We can talk about something else. Maybe we can start something new. Just let me know.
Oh yeah. I'm glad to be here, man.